blood. Okay. First off, I feel like so often it is bad news that I'm telling you about in current events. We're starting off with good news, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, good news story to make us feel good. And more incredibly, it is good news from this country right here. What country? North Korea. Good news from North Korea. I don't think I've ever said that in my entire time teaching before. What happened in North Korea yesterday? Right here. What's that? No, we're not quite there yet. Peace treaty still, of course, you know, we're in the early stages of Trump and Kim Jong-un getting together, but as a gesture of goodwill, Kim Jong-un did what, Caleb? No? Amazing. He released 3 American prisoners who've been held in North Korea for a long time. So these 3 Americans were suddenly released, basically for nothing, just given back to us as a gesture of good faith, saying, hey, looking forward to having a good peace talk. Here are your 3 Americans. It was pretty cool. Also, pretty awesome. Notice that all 3 of them share the same name. All of them have the name Kim. And they were all released by who?
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un, right? How fun is that? Good news. All right, bad news. Let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. Bad news today comes from this country. Which one? This is Russia. And Russia, of course, had an election recently. Who won that election?
Vladimir.
And a huge surprise to absolutely nobody, it was Vladimir Putin, who won the election essentially by jailing or killing all of his opponents. Now, as a result, the people of Russia are not entirely thrilled about him becoming president again, and there were major protests in the streets over the last week as we get closer and closer to his inauguration. He will, once he becomes president for his 4th term, be the longest-serving Russian leader since Stalin back in World War II. And to honor the people who came out to protest him, Vladimir Putin had them arrested. He arrested 1,600 people in the streets of Russia when the protests happened. This man here being carried away by 4 police officers, that's the man who ran against him. That's his political opponent right there. 1,600 people ended up in Russian jail this week. And you have to understand that going to Russian jail is not like going to American jail. It is not one of those things where they throw you in there for a day and they're like, oh yeah, if you didn't do anything wrong, you're fine. You can leave. Because in America, the way that our court system works is that if you are the defendant, where do you sit in the courtroom? You sit on this table here, right? And the prosecution sits here, and everybody sits in the same kind of chairs. We're all equal in the court of law because we are innocent until what? Until proven guilty. Well, in Russia, it doesn't work that way. So in Russia, there's no innocent until proven guilty. In fact, you, as the person, the suspect who's going in there, sit in an actual jail cell in the courtroom. So you go into the courtroom, you get locked up in a jail cell, and then they have your trial. And guess what? If you're sitting behind bars the whole time, typically the judge does not think you are innocent. Yeah.
So they have to do this for 1,600 people.
Yes.
The judges probably hate them.
Well, there are probably a lot of courtrooms, but yes, it would be a lot of new prisoners, certainly. And this is worse when you realize the conviction rate in Russia. This is how often we actually take someone and find them guilty. In America, it varies wildly depending on the crime. It can be anywhere from like 20 to 50%, depending on a lot of factors. You know, your skin color, you know, how much money you have. In Russia, the conviction rate is 99%. If you go to a Russian jail, you are going to a Russian prison afterwards. And it reminds me of one story from last year. This is Sergei Magnitsky, who was put on trial. He was a Russian lawyer put on trial by the government and found guilty. No surprises there. But Magnitsky, at the time of his trial, was dead. He had died in prison from torture, and they put him on trial after his death, ladies and gentlemen. So they put a corpse on trial and found him guilty. Russia does not mess around with their crime. So, of course, just in general, problems for Russia. Let's move on from Russia to Russia and America. We move on further with the Trump Mueller kind of collusion case that we've talked about recently. We learned now that Mueller's getting very close to interviewing Donald Trump. They're going to ask for a sit-down interview with Trump where he will be under oath. And Trump may do this voluntarily, he may not. But in doing so, Trump's team has demanded they get questions in advance, and that also that they can, certain issues will not be off limits, they can't talk about them. To which the Mueller team responded, no, exactly. They also asked if they could submit the answers in writing, and the Mueller team said no as well. We want to talk with the president face to face. That's how we want to have it happen. We don't know yet if the president will agree to this. And if he doesn't, we don't know that we can force him to show up. We just have no idea what's going to happen from this point on. Now, to practice for this, Donald Trump's lawyers held a mock interview where they pretended to put Donald Trump in a room, asking these questions they expect will happen, kind of get him prepared for how the whole thing's going to work. And they said that the problem with doing so was that Donald Trump would frequently interrupt them as they were talking, and that he had extreme loquaciousness, which is an amazing word, which means talkativeness. And because of that, they said that in 4 hours of questioning Donald Trump in this pretend interview, they only got him through 2 questions. Mueller's team has 49 questions to ask him. So you imagine that is many, many hours. Donald Trump tends to kind of get off topic or ramble. I'm kind of guilty of the same thing. So this could take quite a while. On top of this, Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, is back in the news as well. And this is all like this morning stuff that happened. Cohen formed a shell company. You guys know what a shell company is? Everybody? Shell company is basically like a fake company you set up to funnel money through. So it becomes hard to track where the money came from. He used this company specifically to funnel money to Stephanie Clifford, who we know better as Stormy Daniels, and it was a way of basically getting money to her without realizing that it came from Donald Trump or from Michael Cohen. Now we have determined that in fact he owns this company here, and the way we found out about it is because Michael Cohen signed his own name as the owner of this company, which is not a great way to hide your identity, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm not sure that he's a great lawyer either. So we have this happen, and this is not news, okay? We already knew that this whole thing was happening. What we found out this morning was that it was not just her that was getting money from the shell company. There was money coming into the company from a bunch of Russian oligarchs, basically men who work for Vladimir Putin in Russia. And if that's true, that could be big problems for Michael Cohen, who's having money funneled to him from major players in the Russian government. And here's the thing, it's not just Russia. Because we also found out that Novartis, which is an American healthcare company, paid $1 million to Michael Cohen for healthcare advice, and so did AT&T, who paid for advice as well. Now, Michael Cohen is not a healthcare expert. He doesn't know anything about cell phones. Why are these companies paying him huge amounts of dollars? Yeah, so that you can have access to the president. That's the whole idea. I pay you $1 million, and the president can listen to the things that matter to me. Is that illegal?
Yes.
No, it's not. It doesn't look good. It's kind of shady, but there's nothing illegal about that. If you pay a bunch of money to his lawyer, then he says, okay, let's have a meeting. There's nothing illegal about that. It just doesn't look very good. So because of this, the payments for AT&T arrived at exactly the same time that we killed off net neutrality, which remember AT&T will stand to benefit from greatly. So there's a number of shady things going on, and whether it's illegal or not, that's what people are still looking into. Okay. All right. Biggest news though about Donald Trump came with the nuclear deal. We talked about this last week. Donald Trump said he may crush the nuclear deal, stop it, to stop Iran from launching nuclear weapons. He had until May 12 to decide that deadline. It was 3 days from now, but he announced it early. And what did Donald Trump do?
He's demolished.
He has destroyed the deal. He said he's canceling the Iran deal. It will not happen after all. Now, that means a couple of things. One, it's not just us in this deal. A bunch of European countries are also part of it. The idea is that Iran stops making nukes, and then we begin trading with them again, which makes money for everyone. But if the U.S. walks out of the deal, Iran will walk too. Why would they stay in a deal if they can't trade with the richest country in the world? So because of us walking out, it actually ruins the deal for all countries involved. And on top of that, Iran is now, as of today, able to start creating nuclear weapons again. There's no deal in place anymore, so they can begin to re-up their uranium production, their missile sites, all of this stuff can happen. Trump himself has said that he's doing this because he believes he can get a better deal in the future, but whether he does or not totally remains to be seen. And until a second deal happens, they are free to make whatever nukes they want to. I guess to me, like the biggest question about this is not just that this deal took years for us to build, it's been in place for 3 years already, but also if you were North Korea now, how does this affect the way that you were looking at America? If North Korea is trying to say we're going to get rid of our nukes, that's not a word, if we're going to get rid of our nukes and we're going to have an alliance with America, and they just canceled this deal they had with Iran for the same thing, can we still trust them? So there's a lot of questions as to whether this deal is going to work out for us or not. I don't know. We'll find out. Yeah, there we go. Last story. I had to bring this up one more time. Remember our good friend Emmanuel Macron right there? We talked about how he had that whole moment where he called his wife delicious, awkward, right? Well, there's another one as well, because this time, just the other day, The president of Japan, this is Shinzo Abe, met with the president of what country?
Israel.
This is Israel. Very good. Benjamin Netanyahu. I'll take that. And they sat down for a dinner. Now, when you're hosting a country, another country around the world, like what you eat, there's all kinds of rules. You don't want to offend them. You don't want to eat something weird that maybe they don't eat over there. There's this famous moment where Japan hosted George H.W. Bush, and when he came over, what they ate was monkey brains. So they take a monkey alive, and they put it in the center of this table that has a hole in it. You kind of lock it in the table, and then everybody gets a little mallet, and you can actually bash in the skull of the monkey and then eat the brains raw out of the monkey, so they're the freshest possible brains it can be. Now, clearly, that's not a huge thing we do in America, so maybe you shouldn't have done that. And Israel had the same problem, which is that they serve dessert inside of a shoe. Now, why they did this exactly, I cannot explain to you. I don't know why that's the way they decided to make the dessert. There were like cheese and ice cream and stuff inside the shoe. But you have to understand that in Japan, shoes are a serious part of their culture, and that you do not wear them inside the house. The bottoms of the shoes are considered very rude for people to see, and so for you to serve a dessert inside of a shoe is horrifying to someone who comes from Japan, especially to the president of Japan. As you can tell in this photo of him right there, look how excited he is to be at dinner eating out of a shoe. So again, awkward. Maybe just these are things you should figure out before you go in and host a state dinner. The last thing I'll mention is that they also hosted Donald Trump at one point, and his dessert was this piece right here, which was essentially edible chess pieces on a board, but also included Donald Trump's face made out of chocolate. So Donald Trump could actually eat chess pieces and his own face as part of his dessert. And included inside the chess pieces, one of Donald Trump's favorite things, actual gold. There were gold flakes inside the chess pieces. So you can actually, gold is edible, by the way, if you want to eat it. So you shouldn't eat like a lot of it, but you can if you want. So. Okay? All right, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen.